That's Darren Pickering's Small Worlds from their new album titled 3 and released on Rattle Records. We found Darren at home in Christchurch, where he's also a full-time tenured lecturer at Ara Music, and talked about making his own brand of cinematic jazz. But first, what's the jazz scene like in Christchurch?
It's quite vibrant, really.
Ooh, good.
Thanks to the course, the Bachelor of Music course that I actually teach on full time. So it obviously is a seed and a breeding ground for a lot of creative musicians. Jazz is only one of the streams. The other one is contemporary music.
Right.
But it acts as a real hub for things. But like in most places in this country and maybe the world, we're lacking venues, I suppose, really.
Yeah.
We're not lacking musicians. We're not lacking creativity or any of that.
It's this
or output. Yeah.
Yes, it's the support mechanism around it. And money is usually a thing that they're lacking as well.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
And there's so much, running a venue, you can imagine nowadays there's so much competition with Netflix and everything else that you can do in the evening.
Yep.
But hopefully I feel there could be a not a backlash, a resurgence of seeing human beings in the same room rather than screen.
It's still my preferred way of spending an evening, but I'm an old guy, what do I know? Anyway, all right. So you've got this album number 3, which is called 3, from you and your quartet there.
Imaginatively titled.
Nice job. Well, it keeps me from having to ask the question, how many albums is this? So
yeah, true.
I already know the answer. But tell me are the 3 albums in your mind kind of related in some way? Is there something that ties them together?
Very much so. I suppose it's the style of writing, which is the through composed, balanced with improvisation, that I love to compose and to listen to. But it's not the only thing I'm involved in as a sideman, as a pianist. But I think that's the thread. It's the compositional style and the sort of adding electronics to it. So modular synths, iPad, regular synths, just as an extra layer. Cinematic is what I sort of call cinematic jazz, for lack of a better term. Yeah.
Everybody's got to have a niche, you got to fit in somewhere. Make your own.
And all the material comes from a backlog and current, but I've got so many songs, some of them going back years or over a decade, that end up on these albums. So it's sort of all coming from the same pot,
right? I
suppose that's the thread.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about your other players that are on the record. Who are they and why are they there?
Yeah, so this record actually it differs from the other 2 in that I have a different guitarist. I have Heather Webb on guitar. She's currently on tour with Delaney Davidson in Melbourne at the moment. So we all do different things.
Of course.
And Jono Blackie on drums, who's a recent graduate of the course here.
Right.
He's a great young talent. I used to have Mitch Dwyer on guitar and Mitch Thomas on drums, and they're both now relocated to Melbourne.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And that leaves you with a bass player, right?
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, no. I hope Pete Fleming doesn't watch this. Be offended. Yeah. So Pete Fleming on bass, who's been with me for all 3 albums.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I sort of like, he's got a unfussy approach to playing, beautiful feel, great tone. And things like that. So,
all righty. Okay. So take me into the studio with you guys. What does it feel like? Is it a live in the studio kind of thing? Are you building up layers of things? How do you work together?
Yeah. So it's very much alive in the studio. Let's capture a take as a band,
right,
to start with, and then the electronic aspects I tend to do at the mixing stage, or later on post-production,
right,
layering things in my own home studio. We record in a studio by it's owned by Alex Harmer, who His day job is as the sound engineer at RNZ down here,
Oh,
in
yep.
New Zealand.
I know the
And
name.
and it's just a little upright piano, but it sounds beautiful. He's got the studio overlooks the city because it's up on the hill, the one and only hill in Christchurch, the Port Hills. And we did a short YouTube series. Well, he did it, and I was part of it, where that got me thinking, this is how I want to record, and this is where I want to record. And he's a musician himself, and he's so into it. He's just so enthusiastic, and he's a bit of a gear nerd with building his own microphones and Neve preamps and all that other stuff that I can't really be bothered with. So it's a sort of nice marriage.
It takes a special kind of person to be that kind of person.
Yeah, and he sees it all the way through to the mixing stage as well. So we just have I don't do that either. But,
right.
So I'm lucky to have him.
It sounds like it. Yeah. And are there multiple takes? Is it usually, do you splice bits together, or is it live? Or...
I'm not too proud to admit that sometimes we'll splice 2 takes together, especially if the tempos match and other things.
That helps.
Alex is very good at that as well, actually.
Okay, that's a good.
Miles Davis was famous for, in his later era, especially for splicing.
He pretty much invented the old cut and paste routine.
Yeah. But of course, in jazz circles, there are purists. You know, Wynton Marsalis. No, whoever who might frown upon, it not being one complete take. But most of the time, they are one complete take. And we usually tend to be 3 or 4 takes, and we often come back to take 1 or 2. Which is quite interesting. That's usually the thing. I still am not comfortable. I still don't really. I feel it's such a challenge in improvised music to do it this way, as opposed to other genres, which typically you're tracking. You might play together, but then you might only keep the drum track, come back and do the bass track. A lot less pressure, performance pressure that way.
Sure.
And I just,
but it does give the tracks a certain energy.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast as well.
Yeah. So because of
the interaction,
because of its improvisational aspect, do you have much discussion with the other 3 musicians beforehand? Do you practice a lot, or do you kind of see what they come up with on the day?
No, we rehearse a lot, especially because my stuff is sometimes through composed, has many sections to it, not just the typical jazz solo head type of thing. But at the same time, I'm conscious of not over rehearsing as well. So there's that balance you've got to find to allow the band members to input their own musical personality and ideas. Some of that happens with conversations and workshopping at rehearsal, and some of it happens, which is great, on the day as well, where you say, wow, what happened there? That was such a good take, which I think is really important to balance out the composed parts. Yeah, and
you just hope that they were recording when it happened.
That's Alex's job.
Exactly.
Doesn't forget.
Yep. And so do you have a track maybe that we could pick apart a little bit that you'd like to discuss it in more in-depth?
Well, put me on the spot, because choosing a kid or something.
Well, no, I realize you love them all.
I mean, is there something that stuck out to you at all?
The one about that's named after I can't pronounce it, of course, the Norway town, Hjartdal.
Hjartdal. That's an interesting. It's one of my favorites. I can just use the child analogy. contradicted myself, but it's one of the ones on the album that doesn't have a solo per se. So it doesn't have an improvisational section. It's short. It goes all the way through. It evolves, and obviously everyone's improvising, or in terms of how they're developing their part as it goes through, open-ended type of thing. But really, it's one I'm quite attracted to that. I suppose it's the soundtrack. I like soundtracks and ambient stuff as well as other things, but I sometimes like short form things. So it's one of the short ones.
Right. Oh yeah, it's only a couple minutes long, 2.5.
That's right. And I like the idea sometimes of leaving the listener with a flavor lingering. And I think short pieces, when I'm a listener of things, sometimes does that. It could easily have gone on longer, or you could sort of do what's strong about it over and over.
Sure.
And milk it. But I sort of, part of me, not all the songs, obviously, you'd be very unsatisfied if the whole album was like that. But if you want to be nerdy about it, it's using modal interchange theory is what got me started with the harmony of the tune. So it's very diatonic.
Right.
But I was interested in then moving the same progression, borrowing from a parallel mode, so it went out of key to the listener, but for me it was still the same progression over and over and over, looping around.
Okay,
that was the idea. And I chose different parts of this progression, which is about 8 chords long, different parts to go up to the different mode and come back down again. So you get this sort of thing that's the same but different. You feel like it's familiar but different, which I think worked really well. And then the melody came after that, where I needed to evolve. The melody needed to evolve through it from very, very simple to very busy at the end and build.
Okay.
So that's a unique one on the thing. It wouldn't be typically a jazz track, I suppose. It's the same with Soft Life is like that as well, which is just a duo between me and Heather.
Right.
And using synths more.
And have you always been a jazz head?
No, I haven't always been a jazz head. I would class myself as a late bloomer, compared to the guys I'm teaching here.
Right.
Who are doing it through high school and then coming through. No, I started as a synth head, really.
One of those.
When I was about 13 or 14, I sort of got the bug. My parents bought me a keyboard for Christmas or something. I'm an only child, so I got a bit spoiled with gear. But basically, I ended up getting really into drum machines, synths, and recording instrumental atmospheric ditties on a little Fostex 4-track cassette.
I remember those things.
Showing my age. I've still got it. It's just up there. It's antique now. And you'd bounce it down and then do another track and bounce it, and you get tape hiss going way, way, way up. Anyway, if I look back on that period from 13 to 18, maybe, that really taught me, without me realizing it, I was teaching myself how music worked by layering things and just the intuitive way of doing it. At the same time, I was being a covers band keyboardist in adult bands in Gisborne. That's where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
And I was one of the only keyboardists, so I ended up in all these other bands with people older than me. My dad would drop me off at the pub and pick me up again, and they'd look after me, hide me under the table if the cops came in, that sort of thing. So those two things are my musical start. The jazz part of the question, I didn't get the bug until maybe 18, 19. I was still in Gisborne, still being a covers band person. And it was one of the things was a movie by Spike Lee called Mo Better Blues.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a brilliant soundtrack by Branford Marsalis Quintet, which had Kenny Kirkland on piano, who became one of my favorite pianists. But the whole movie thing it had Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes before they were super famous. It was very hip. It had that whole cool vibe. I bought into the culture of it and the cool suits. And then from there I discovered Bill Evans, You Must Believe in Spring was the first album I fell in love with Bill Evans. Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock, obviously, and all those sorts of people.
Yeah.
But the bridge was smooth jazz, I suppose. Joe Sample, Bob James, George Duke.
Yeah.
Between the
It's interesting about the film influencing you. I was just talking to somebody the other day who was heavily influenced because they saw the Blues Brothers movie when they were growing up. It was the same kind of reaction, different genre, obviously, but the same deal,
It's like it opened up the floodgates, but it needed to be something that wasn't just an album, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was the whole experience.
Yep.
Like the whole world that you bought into, I suppose.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how that translates into your teaching work and the kids that you run into now. And is it the same kind of experiences for them, or is it different nowadays? Technology is very different, but everything else.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things is that I don't think I would have developed the same way if I had access to YouTube tutorials and information and just everything at your fingertips, which makes you a bit blasé about it, really. And I find myself and my attention span, I tell myself off. I go, come on, Darren, you used to wait for months at Gisborne for one album ordered from ECM Records. In the mail, and you'd thrash it. You'd thrash the album. You'd really listen to it. And now, I don't know. I just flick through like everyone else.
It could be a detriment because you have everything at your fingertips, and you're listening to the masters teach. If you want to teach everything to you, it doesn't leave space for yourself to be there.
You're talking about YouTube tutorials and things like that?
Yeah,
exactly. I think that's the exact point that for the people some of the kids I'm teaching, it's a narrow way. They don't realize they're being narrow about it.
Yeah.
But sort of a narrow, instant way of doing it. It's amazing the stuff that's out there, and it is very useful, but it changes your perspective a bit. And maybe they're not developing their own sense of being a musician as clearly or as quickly. And also, it invites comparison. I mean, yes, you can listen to a Bill Evans record and go, wow, that's beautiful. I wish I could play like that. Great. But now there's so many people that are demoing crazy gimmicky stuff or just crazy good stuff.
Yeah.
It's the volume of it's huge.
Yeah.
I just think some youngsters crumble under that type of, and I'm constantly as a teacher trying to remind them, no, everyone's on their own path.
Yep.
And you shouldn't really be doing that.
Yeah. Otherwise it's just too much. It's too much.
That's right.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. All righty. And so the album's been out for a little while. What's the reaction been? Are you happy with it?
It's been out for a week. Yeah, I'm happy with the reaction. It's gotten some airplay, and RNZ have been very generous with a few little features, and also Nick Tipping this week will feature it on his jazz show, Inside Out.
Good.
Some international reviews, which is always really lovely, and the label Rattle Records, Steve Garden, that.
Yep.
It's great to be on that label.
I mean, it is nice to have a label like that in this country, because just to know that it's being supported.
Beautiful packaging, great roster of artists to be part of, great reputation. I think it's wonderful. I like to call them the ECM of New Zealand, in terms of the aesthetic of it all, and all that sort of thing. But I myself am also beavering away in the background, sending out promo things here and there.
No, you got to do what you got to do. Every bit counts.
Yeah, I don't really like that part of the process, but it has to happen.
Yep. Because you got to make the big bucks.
Well, I mean, it's not even. I'm very lucky to have a day job in music, and gigging and other aspects, and being a session player, playing on other people's records. So when I do my own thing, it's almost more just to add to the little beacon of this is me out in the world, and the financial thing obviously is almost zero.
Yes.
You lose money basically
Of course you
to
do.
get things out. Yeah. So that's not what it's about,
But it should be about it. It should. I mean,
it should be. It should be. You're right.
Why is it that the music just has no value and the people behind it,
It's a sorry state we're in now, isn't it? That's the gate. The horse is bolted, as you say.
Well, I blame Spotify.
Oh, definitely, and everyone else that didn't act against it.
Yep.
Against them,
and those who were colluding with them, because there are people who doing.
So now,
well, thank you.
Now the generation that I'm teaching, they themselves, they're musicians, but they don't, as a consumer, they don't see music as something, as a commodity. They see it as a right.
Yep. That's a big difference.
A right that it should be there for free.
Yep.
And there's a disconnect because they're going to be
musicians great
as well.
I mean, if that's the way it is, that's great. But you still have to be. There has to be something in place to keep it sustainable for the people creating it. Otherwise, it's the inevitable is going to happen. It's going to go away.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could go on like that all day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're doing all right. You're having fun and you're pushing yourself and getting your creative things happening and teaching others and having I think all of it. That's nice.
I think the Small Worlds project is becoming sort of my life force.
All right.
It's really energizing me, and the thing that is the main output at the moment for my creative flows, as well as being a session musician on other people's things.
Yeah.
Like I'm on Marlon Williams' new one, which is very different music to what I'm doing.
Good old Marlon.
And he's doing well. It's great.
Have you seen his film?
No, I haven't yet.
I have. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that Littleton scene is pretty amazing with Delaney and Marlon and everyone else, but in terms of my releases, I don't see an end to it, this project. I might do other things as well, but I really love the aesthetic and sound of guitar piano quartet for some reason. I really love the sound of the unison line of the two together. I haven't never got sick of it yet. And I've got my backlog of music, so there's still music in the wings that I keep bringing to the band. I think they might be sick of new stuff all the time, maybe. I don't know. And so there will probably be a fourth and a fifth, and we'll see how we go.
See how many numbers it gets up to.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.